Hey guys, what is up? This is Matt Davis Mia once again. Welcome back to another video game review. This time is going to be on Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. Now this is the sequel to the critically divisive, yet managed to get a massive cult following over the years, Death Stranding, which was created by Hideo Kojima 4 years after he left Konami. Despite the fact that he left Konami, he has still been having a motivation of creating his own game, specifically now with the Death Stranding series. And with Death Stranding 2, Sam, who was from the first game, comes back as he is trying to live a happy life being a father to Lou, as he now has to go back and deliver cargo throughout the world, and he has to connect his Cupid to the chiral network throughout. And throughout the game, we learn more about exactly where BB, which is Lou, originally came from, because it was something that was never fully unveiled in the first game, but throughout the game, we learn much more about that, as well as a lot more to the storyline much later on, which I refuse to spoil any elements of the storyline whatsoever, but I can tell you, it is bizarre. More bizarre than the first game, in my opinion. Now, I like the first game. It was far from perfect, but I definitely see where Hideo Kojima was going for. But if you're not into delivery simulations or anything like that, then yeah, I could see why it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, because there are two types of people. People who love this game, people who hate this game, and people like myself who like the game, but I definitely see where the criticisms came from, because they are very valid. And when it comes to people praising the game nowadays, they also have very good reasons as well, because I feel like the biggest strengths of the first game were its story rather than its gameplay, because it focused less on combat and more on delivering. But yeah, there was plenty of room to improve upon its predecessor, and does Death Stranding 2 really manage to do that? Does it really manage to bring its predecessor justice? Absolutely. When it came to players testing the game, like before the game was fully released, apparently the game was so perfect that Hideo Kojima had to make changes to it, because he doesn't want his game to be too perfect. He still wants people to be kind of divided. It's like if they did that with some of the all-time greatest games and just made it so some people would kind of be split on it. But I can see where he was coming from. But regardless of whatever he changed, it doesn't hurt most of the game itself, like the actual finished product, because there is so much to this game that Hideo Kojima managed to improve upon it from its predecessor, and not just due to the graphics, because the first game already looked great. But right here, because it's on PS5, it's a PS5 exclusive, by the way, it looks so good. Every single little detail from its open world environment looking even better than its predecessor, and it already looked really good. But right here, because it's on PS5, every single hidden detail throughout the game just looked so good. From the character designs to the creature designs, because there are more bosses to take upon. There isn't like a heavy amount of them, but there is just enough for you to try planning your strategies, because one thing that this game definitely does better is the gameplay. Now, look, you still have to deliver cargo, which is always going to be a struggle for some. There are much easier ways of traveling now, as it's much easier to get a vehicle this time around, not really having you required to, well, I forgot how the vehicle system worked in the first game, but it's definitely not as good as in here, though, because it was much more improved. Like, you can get a vehicle that allows you to, like, pick up random pieces of cargo that you can send to other people as you try to get 5 stars or boost up your ratings, boost up your likes with each area that you go to. It was always something that I enjoyed seeing, so you can get better gear, because some of the gear can be very creative when going up against enemies, specifically with BTs. In the first game, one of your biggest weapons was your poop. I'm not even joking, you actually used your poop as a weapon in the first game, but this time around, in terms of taking down BTs, you use blood grenades. And that's the biggest thing about this game, is the weapons. You have much more freedom when it comes to combat, especially since you're going to be having to do some stealth on occasion when it comes to taking down enemy bases, because oftentimes if you're traveling on foot, you're going to have to use stealth once in a while. It's always an option, but it brings in those same vibes as Metal Gear Solid. And it makes us miss the days of Metal Gear Solid. It's pretty much like the closest thing we're ever going to get to a full conclusion to Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, because it was never finished. This definitely will give you guys the same vibes as Metal Gear Solid. It definitely takes you back to the days of Hideo Kojima when he managed to kill it with every single Metal Gear Solid game. But now that he's gone from that, it's never going to be the same again. But still, despite the fact that Death Stranding 1 wasn't perfect, it's still a creative game when it comes to what it had to offer in terms of its storyline, but the world was absolutely bizarre. Like, every single element that comes out of absolutely nowhere, it is unpredictable. And later when it comes to the story, there are elements to the storyline that really changes things up in directions that I wasn't really expecting all that much. There is one element to the story that I did feel was a little bit predictable. I'm not going to go too heavy into that, but nonetheless, there is so much to the story that is really hard to wrap around. Like, sometimes when it comes to the story, there are often times where some scenes kind of go by a little bit too quickly, and I kind of would have liked if some scenes kind of went on a little bit longer in order to get, like, you know, a lot more into it, because I was looking forward to what the next cutscene was going to have when it came to delivering cargo during my main missions. Every single time you're doing a main mission, once in a while when you get closer to your destination, there's always a piece of licensed music that plays, and I always look forward to that. The song choices when it comes to Death Stranding are always a blessing. They're always putting you in the mood, and throughout the game, when it comes to the song choices, it was always beautiful. It always managed to bring in those moments of tension, and it was always something that I enjoyed seeing. I'm not really going to get too heavier into the story because there's a lot to uncover here. So much to uncover that it is pretty much impossible not to spoil, so I'm just going to take a break from the story and just talk about the gameplay itself. Or, you know, I could take a break from that and talk about the characters, because, oh man, these characters, I absolutely loved the introduction of these characters. Ellie Fanning plays Tamaro, who is a young girl that you see much later on within the game. There is never a single time where any performance felt weak or a little bit underwhelming. No, everybody is super spot on, even when it comes to the celebrity appearances. Like Ellie Fanning, she has so much to her character that I knew there was going to be a much more bigger part to her later on. There's Fragile, who also plays like your side companion, who helps you out throughout a lot of the game and is always by your side. She has like those really cool like hand figures that she doesn't actually use her hands for. I always thought that was cool. It just shows how much there is to this world, especially since you get a doll companion named Dollman, who's like this puppet that runs at 15 FPS. Kind of like something I would see from out of a Tim Burton movie, like a stop-motion Tim Burton film. It was always nice to have him around, especially since once in a while he'll kind of scold you with how bad you smell, and the fact that you have to take a shower once in a while because, well, you still got to take care of yourself throughout the game. It's never one of those games where when it comes to the gameplay, you can just run and shoot. Sometimes there are specific items that you need in order to defeat certain enemies, which is something I appreciated, because when it comes to the amount of gear you get, each one manages to play a major part when it comes to combat. Sometimes you can use stealth if you really want to, and sometimes when it comes to the weapons, like the tranquilizer sniper, which can be helpful, which I didn't really see myself using all that much because I'm more of a heavy combat guy. Again, there's not a single time where you have to use stealth, and there's not really a time where you have to use combat. Just play at your own pace. It's just like when it came to the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid 5. And I may be comparing this a lot to that, but we miss Metal Gear Solid. Hell, there's one character that most people are absolutely going to compare to Snake, and that is Neil. Clearly, this is a major homage to Hideo Kojima's classic series, and it just brings us back to those days. And it's not like he was in the game just to remind you of Metal Gear Solid, but he actually does play a major role. And easily the one that stole the show for me is the return of Higgs, played by Troy Baker, and he absolutely nails it once again. I feel like anything Troy Baker is in is always going to be amazing, and I'm not just saying that because I met the guy in real life. I'm serious when I say he kind of reminds me of a mixture of The Crow combined with like a powerful rock star. I don't know, like Like, people would probably know the character best. I know people are comparing him to another character. I don't know. I'm not really good when it comes to, singers and whatnot, but the way he uses his metal guitar, like, I thought that was pretty kick-ass, and throughout the game, it was just so engaging to see all these characters, as there wasn't really a time where there was a character that I really disliked or just got super annoyed by, because they fit in with this world so well. There was just so much commentary provided into the game that Hideo Kojima just likes to show off. And it's something that I feel like we can all definitely agree with when it comes to what he's bringing on to the social commentary elements that he's bringing out about, the uses of weapons and whatnot. There was so much to the storyline that really shows that Hideo Kojima really has a love for storytelling and characters and pretty much everything when it comes to bringing a well-developed game to home consoles or PC, because we know this is obviously going to get a PC port later down the line, because every PlayStation game needs that, except Bloodborne. That's a no-no. That is no Bloodborne for PC, no Bloodborne 60 FPS, no. We can never have that, because that would actually make people happy, and we don't want that. Unless we're actually putting... whatever. This isn't about Bloodborne, this is about Death Stranding 2. Now, there is a lot of this game that I am praising. Is there anything about this game I didn't like? Yes, there is a couple. Specifically when it comes to later down the line, when it comes to exploring the snowy mountain. I absolutely hated going around the snowy mountain. If you're going up the mountain with a vehicle, you are probably going to have a horrible time if you don't have the right gear, because oftentimes I didn't even use gear all that much, except for like ladders and generators, so I won't have to worry about my battery dying on my vehicle once in a while. But sometimes when you're trying to reach the top of the mountain, sometimes it'll just give you the middle finger, and the vehicle will just go all the way back for absolutely no reason. It just irritated me to no end, causing me to have to lose some of my progress when I had to reload my save file, because all my cargo was getting damaged. It was an absolute nightmare. And I was all like, come on, just let me climb the mountain. Like, I'm just trying to go up the mountain, but the wheels, I'm going forward, I'm using the boost and all that, but sometimes it just, I know there are other ways of designing your vehicle, but I just mostly went with whatever people online were making in terms of the vehicles out there that they're trying to make. But I don't know, it was a nightmare. It was an absolute struggle. But hey, the story was so good that I could care less of how much it was frustrating me, and just could manage to get past it. Now, of course, when it comes to the story, there is bound to be a lot of side missions. And oh man, there are a lot. A lot of them are filler missions. A lot of them are there just so it can make you not focus on the story and just feel like you're getting more gameplay. Some side missions I thought were kind of useful, like this bike rider section. That you had to use your tri-cruiser in order to, take down these enemies that don't really have a big part, but it was a nice little side mission. Like, I enjoyed doing the standard missions and the side missions in order to get better equipment. Not all of it was satisfying, not all of it was useful, but it was always nice to have. And there are skill points in the game too that can really help you out when you're trying to, get out of, big situations, because BTs are going to lurk in every single area. So it's always nice to get points in order to use your skills in order to, figure out which will work best. So yeah, it still has that same, going from one area to the next in terms of, delivering, and you do have to worry about your cargo, making sure that it doesn't get damaged too much. But there wasn't much of a time where I was having much of a struggle, especially since I was playing on story difficulty, because I like getting engaged with the story. I don't care about massive challenges. I just want to get myself engaged with the gameplay. And nonetheless, I didn't want to rush through this game. I spent like over 45 hours. The main story takes roughly around 28 hours. But nonetheless, I still just wanted to, take some time and just engage myself with the world and what every area had to offer. Because there are BTs in every single area, and you do have the option to take them down. Just make sure you get the right weapons, because guns aren't always going to work. So I appreciate how the gameplay always manages to change and not making it always feel like you have to run and gun out of specific situations. It always encourages you to want to bring other weapons with you, even though it's going to, add in too much of your cargo, causing you to lose your balance. But that's why there are vehicles out there that can definitely help out with the experience more. And while it controls well, it doesn't control well when you're going uphill. But nonetheless, it didn't stop me from just really getting hooked on to what was going on screen. Like I said before, I was excited for each of the main cutscenes. I was excited for where the story would lead, because I just did not want this game to pass by like that. I was really hooked on this. And it just goes to show how much love and care was put into this for a game that was 6 years old. That 6 years was definitely worth it for this one. And the first game wasn't really a massive hit financially, but it did manage to do a lot more later on, causing them to want to make a sequel. It's nice that Kojima wanted to make a sequel, because it's a sequel that manages to do its predecessor justice without it feeling like another, walking driving simulator where you just have to deliver things, but actually adding more to the gameplay that combines elements of Metal Gear Solid, as well as some sequences that were truly bizarre and I was not expecting. It's truly a bizarre game, but so is the first game. But literally any Hideo Kojima game can be absolutely weird, but that's truly what brings in the game's charm. Its bizarre world, its unique characters, its gameplay style, it just truly feels like Hideo Kojima has never lost his touch. Even when it feels like Death Stranding 1 didn't feel like it had that same touch, because it really did. And I heard that the director's cut managed to do more justice to the first game, but I didn't play it, but I know that was supposed to be better. But hey, I think this is a lot better than the first game. And the first game was good, but it just goes to show that sequels can be improved upon if done right. And in the end, guys, despite the fact that I would love to know where that other content came from that actually made this game truly perfect, because it would have been nice if the game did manage to be perfect, but it still has its flaws. But hey, a lot of the previous Metal Gear Solid games definitely had flaws. The Phantom Pain was filled to the brim with flaws, but that did not stop people from loving the game. I love the game, and it's one of those games that I still remember, even though it's never going to be finished. There's so much more going this time around in terms of its storyline and its characters, how it changes every single time when it gets further into the story. It's really impossible not to want to spoil, but it's definitely one of those games that I am sure a lot of people are going to talk about for years to come. There is so much to this world, from its new area, to the new people you meet, to the deliveries you make, to the engaging combat style, pretty much making it feel like it's what the first game really should have been. And it was all around a really, really engaging time, and it just makes me miss seeing games like this. Actual effort being put in, with a lot of creativity behind it, and I just couldn't help but by the end of the game, I was just wanting more. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed how it ended, even though there were some elements that I kind of wish lasted a little bit longer in order for me to get fully connected to the overall conclusion. But hey, nonetheless, I was happy with how it ended, and overall, I was happy with what Hideo Kojima has delivered in the end. This begs the question, will there be a Death Stranding 3? I would like if this became a trilogy, but I'm just so happy that Hideo Kojima managed to do even more to his new games after Konami. I highly recommend it if you were a fan of the first game. If you were a fan of the first game, chances are you might love this one even more. I definitely advise checking it out. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram or maybe Blue Sky. Give me a follow if you can. And I'll see you guys later. Word out.